for the very important cracker of the CAF Confederations fixture against defending champions. Details of these and many more will be yours when we return from the break. Stay with us.
Telling him not to counterpunch.
Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network, and have with me Kingsley Marwa.
Thank you very much for having me, sir. Very happy to be here.
As usual, we'll start on the local scene, and Amuso, Wanchuku, and the others have been, unveiled as global ambassadors.
Of course, yes, they will actually be unveiled as global ambassadors. Taking a look at, that's impressive, feats, of course, we saw at the World Athletic, Championship, and this is what you get, of course, when you actually put up a very good performance at any championship. You see brands, of course, coming to get, your names, on their products, and all of that. And I think this is not the first time it's happening for Toby, Amuson at the World Athletics Championship, where she puts a very impressive record for herself. I think last 2 years, we saw different brands, of course, coming up, to take up her name, of course, on their products, and this give them more money and, of course, more recognition. So I think when you have a very, very impressive, performance in any event, just like what we saw at the African Games, of course, you stand a very good chance, of getting, this brand, coming up, to sponsor you, using your name, on their products and all of that. So for me, I think it's a very good one. Kudos to Toby Amuson and Wanchuku as well. We hope they continue to keep
event in the world that features over 40 sports disciplines, and looking at it from the commercial point of view, over 60 markets are on showcase at the Olympic Games. Then you know what it means to be branded an ambassador going to the Olympic Games. So we say congratulations to Toby Amuson, and of course Wanchuku. For Toby Amuson, only Nigerian with a world record, as a world record holder, of course, in the 100 meters hurdle event. And she as well, remember, becoming the World Championship athlete, and of course, like I mentioned, world record, back-to-back at the Commonwealth Games. So there are so many reasons why, top commercial interest should be for Toby Amuson, and of course, compatriot Wanchuku, as we are going to the World Cup. Wanchuku, of course, a discus thrower, claimed, of course, a new world record in the 2022 Commonwealth Games. Remember, over 33.36 meters, and the world record, you remember, was at 32.95. So these athletes are really branded in the proper perspective, and it's expected that this as well will help them to perform at the biggest stage. Olympic Games in Paris in just about weeks from now. I'm sure there's a lot of value on Toby Amuson and a compatriot going to the Olympic Games. Now, I guess let's talk about Olympic Games. Reminds me that a Japanese who suffered leukemia is to swim at the Paris Olympic Games. It doesn't come easy. Leukemia survivor, to compete in the 100 meters butterfly event at the Paris Olympic Games. Kingsley.
doesn't really come easy, and I think for me, first of all,
reality.
Yes, first of all, we have to actually, give thanks, of course, to go for her to survive, that particular one. It's not always easy for one, to survive, leukemia. It's always a very difficult, thing. For what we've seen so far, I think, for her coming back, we have to keep our fingers crossed and see how she'll be able to perform. She's been she's been suffering.
So man, the dietary is a man.
What we're saying, she's been suffering that, for some time now. Will she be able, of course, to bounce back? Will she be on her A game? I think for me, she's been doing a lot of training and coming back, at this point in time after suffering the leukemia. I think we just have to see, what, of course, you will bring it up, at the Paris Olympics.
Well, that's good. Disability should not discourage anybody from being getting to the very top. We've seen here a Japanese with leukemia, haven't survived it, is going out to showcasing her skill in the very best at the Olympic Games. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed and to bring you some very interesting highlights talking about athletes going to the Olympic Games. And sure, with us here on Atlantic Television Network, you don't miss out anything, even if you are not in Paris, because we'll keep tap on all that happens at the Olympic Games. Talk about Olympic Games and just preparation, Kingsley, and Team Nigeria getting ready in this one.
Yeah, of course. Nigeria is really getting ready. After the All-African Games, the Sport Minister John Waneno, of course, came up to say that that preparation has actually kicked off intensively ahead of the Olympics and the next edition of the All-African Games as well. So for what we've seen so far, I think the preparation is top-notch. The Sport Minister is not leaving any stone unturned at this point in time. He tries most kind of to see that all the federations are prepared. And you talk about the weightlifting federation, the wrestling federation, that some of our wrestlers have already, qualified already. The athletic federation as well. I think they are trying much as they can, of course, to make sure that all of these federations are well prepared, to represent the country at the Paris Olympic Game. This time around, we should be looking forward to see a very huge difference because I think we have new names now, especially in athletics, weightlifting, and as well as boxing as well. So for me, I think Team Nigeria, they are very much prepared for this particular Olympic Games. Take a look at the performance we had at the All-African Games. That's a huge statement of intent. Now, with better preparation and this athlete well-funded and being taken care of, I think they will be up there, of course, to give the very best at Paris. The last time in Tokyo wasn't really a very good outing. We saw so many setback, of course, for the team. But I think with the presence of John Waneno as the new sport minister now, and what he has been able to do since, of course, he got into office, I think we should be looking forward to see a very, very huge change at the Paris Olympic for Team Nigeria.
Preparations in top gear towards the Olympic Games from the camp of Nigeria, Team Nigeria, especially in athletics, like you did mention there, weightlifting and boxing, making statement, especially the way they performed at the African Games that got concluded in Accra, Ghana, a few days ago. Meanwhile, talking about preparations, the Handball League, Premier League is set to commence, and Benin City is the venue for the year 2023 Handball League kickoff.
It's a very good one, of course. We're going to be seeing the kickoff of the Handball League, of course, in Benin City. Not a very bad venue from what we've seen so far. And I tell you, the handball team, the handball federation, they've been top-notch from what we're seeing. A lot of preparation. The handball league has been one of the consistent league so far in the country, and you must give kudos, of course, to the handball federation president Samuel Joho. He has been doing everything, of course, that he can to make sure that, of course, handball get to the get to a very, very huge height. Even using his own money, of course, at some point, of course, to invest, of course, in the league. And at some point, we'll see that the Handball Federation is one of the federations that has sponsorship. When you have to talk about federations in Nigeria having sponsorship, handball is one of them. And this has to do with quality and high level of leadership we've seen being exacted from the federation president, Samuel Chewa at this point in time. And from what we've seen, if the handball league continues like this, we should be looking forward to see handball being one of the strongest sports in Nigeria. When you talk about sports in Nigeria, you talk about football, you talk about athletics, and basketball. But I think we're gradually seeing handball, of course, coming up, to be in the minds of people. Take a look at what we saw at the African Games. The handball team, of course, they didn't come back empty-handed. I think they were able to get a bronze medal, back. So that's to say that there's a lot of preparation. There's much work, of course, being done, and we're looking forward to see a favorable, of course, handball league this time around in Nigeria.
Handball league getting ready to kick off here in Nigeria. Benin City is the venue, and talking about the league, it consists of 22 teams, 12 male and 10 female, and runs in two phases. The league, which is in its 7th season, is in the 2nd year of sponsorship, and we hope that Nigeria United and Safety Braves who are defending champions, the male and female category respectively, will continue to dominate. Talk about Niger United. They were 2018 champions and led the male category right from the first phase in Benin City, and here they are back to Benin City again. Kingsley, what do you think? Themselves and the safety bills in the female category, are they going to retain their title the year 2024?
I will just keep our fingers crossed and see how far, of course, they were able to go this time around. Familiar ground, of course, for them, and that might probably add, or give them advantage as well this season. They were very, very impressive, of course, last season. And if you take a look at it, a lot of work, of course, were actually done in terms of players and as well the managers, of course, also living up to expectation. So if they continue like that this season, they might, of course, be retaining the title at the end of the day.
Well, we wish them the very best of luck, safety bills, especially in the female category of the handball league. Well, let's stay away from handball a little bit and return back to the Olympic Games, and the preparations are just into very feverish pitches. Most of the teams are getting ready. We talked about Team Nigeria. Team Australia have announced a professional list of 26 players for the game. We understand they have about 14 players with prior Olympic Games experience, including 11 members of the FIFA Women's Basketball League who won the World Cup in 2022. This is a crack Australian side going to the Olympic Games.
Yeah, Mr. At this point in time, we've not seen a provisional list, of course, for the D Tigers of Nigeria. We've not really heard much when it has to do with in terms of preparation and all of that. And at this point in time, I think we should be, having that little, sign or perhaps that little signal of the fact that it's not going to be easy down there at the Paris Olympic game. When you take a look at the parents, Australia, we have Canada, we have France, of course, in that particular group where the D Tigers, of course, will be playing. I think it's a very tough one. Looking at the fact that Australia also coming up with a provisional list before the basketball events at the Paris Olympics, a huge statement of intent that Nigeria D Tigers, of course, should step up. I think preparation should be up now. We don't want a situation whereby funds as well also be an issue, because we've seen funds being issue, of course, being an issue for the basketball team in Nigeria. Yeah, so it was a good one for the Australians, but we'll just pray that D Tigers, of course, will live up to expectation at the end of the day.
Looks like the Australians are behaving maybe the way we see of the African teams, relying so much on players based overseas.
Yes.
Or athletes based overseas.
Yes, of course. I think at this point in time, you just have to rely on your best hands. That's what it is now. You don't have to gamble. This is a very huge, competition. Talking about the Olympics game, don't want to take it for granted. So I think that's why they're going for their best hand. When you also take a look at Team Nigeria as well, you know that we're all relying on our foreign, players. We don't really, those back home here, they don't have a active league, and you don't have to depend on them. So you have to go for the best, at this point in time. No time to gamble, no time for sentiment. All they need is a victory, at the end of the day. So no one will want to gamble with such a competition. I think that's why they're actually going for the foreign-based players.
Australia, with their team named, the provisional squad named for the Olympic Games, and under 30, that's quite a few, but they are looking at comparative advantage in areas and sports where they will, go for the podium. And talking about going to the podium, they will first have to contend with the D Tigers, especially the basketball team, in the opening game of the basketball event at the Olympic Games in Group B. Well, talking about basketball reminds me of the basketball league in Africa that has started already. Of course, you remember. But it looks like one of the opponents of the River Supers has suffered some setback. APR of Rwanda seemed to have one of their players agreeing to join an Egyptian side, Etihad Alexandria.
Yes, for me, I don't think that would be much of a confusion for the APR side. Yes, talking about their player, their point guide, Michael Dizon. He has left the APR basketball club agreeing, of course, to move to join Egyptian side Etihad Alexandra. For me, I don't think that would be a very huge, headache, for the APRO side. But if you take a look at the prowess of Michael Dizon, he's actually a very good point guard, actually a very good basketball player. He's done a lot, of course, for the APRO side. He was named Basketball African League player, a most valuable player in 2022 with this APRO side as well. And for what we're seeing, yes, you see he'll be a great miss in the side, but I don't see that, to give the APRO side, much trouble or much worries ahead of the Basketball African League against River Supers and the rest of their opponents, in that particular one. I don't think there should be any happiness. River Supers should not be rejoicing that, season, of course, has left, that it's going to be rosy. It's really going to be a very tight one. So for me, I just hope that, Coach Ogo Daudu and his players, of course, will have to train hard and, of course, prepare their mind and also prepare themselves mentally, to face any opposition. There's nothing to rejoice here that Michael Dizon, of course, has left APR. You're just going to go there and fight and see how you can actually win all the games.
He looks like a mobile player. He featured for U.S. Monastery of Tunisia last year, and he won with them, and now he's moving on. Well, talking about the Savannah Conference, it would be taking place in Senegal, I think on 4th of May to the 12th. And of course, it comprises of U.S. Monastery, the former club side of the player that has moved, AS Journey of Senegal, and of course, Nigerian champions, Rivers Hoopers. How prepared are Hoopers?
As well from the fans, and for what we saw down here in the basketball bridge league, where we saw them, of course, got past the likes of Nigerian Custom, Bogo Chief, and the rest of them. It was a very impressive display. But that level of performance, can that level of performance take down the likes of APRO, US Monastir, and the rest of the team in that particular group? That's a big question, and that, of course, that is left to be answered. And that question, I think, will be answered when River Supers gets into the court to lock arms with the other teams in that particular group. But let's keep our fingers crossed. For me, I think the morale of the players is very high at this point in time. Ogo Daudu is looking very much optimistic to make a statement for himself in the Basketball African League. We hope that what we saw in the last season, that Kwara Falcons represented Nigeria will not repeat itself. It came back just like that. We hope that of River Supers, of course, won't be the same. And for what we've seen so far, like River Supers, they are very much optimistic of getting something in this particular one.
River Supers, this wouldn't be the first time at the Basketball League. Remember, they were the inaugural edition of the Basketball League. Do you think that will come in handy as a return back to the Basketball League at this 4th edition?
That would be, yes. For me, experience, they should have some level of experience, at this point in time. Having, participated in the Basketball African League before, there should be some level of experience. For Falcons last season, I think I might call them some slack. That was the first time they were going to the Basketball African League, and it was a different thing for them entirely. And looking at the fact that the Basketball League down here in Nigeria has not been that fantastic, you can actually, give them that, kudos of going there to do wonders. But for River Supers, I think they've been there. The coach, of course, knows what it takes to play in the Basketball African League now, talking about Ogo Daudu. Some of the players as well still have that level of experience. They've gotten 2 or 3 foreign-based players. I think that will also boost the team as well. So what to do, how to tackle their opponents. I believe by now they should be studying their opponent, talking about US Monastir, APRO, and AS Tone at this point in time. Study them, study the players, and know how, of course, to tackle them when you get into the court. So for me, I think River Supers, they have a little bit of advantage when it has to do with experience because of the fact that they've been there before.
River Supers with a little bit of advantage, having been at the inaugural edition of the Basketball League here in Africa. We'll see how they'll perform at the Savannah Conference coming up in May this year. Talking about basketball now, let's look at the latest happening at the international level of basketball, and it is the NBA, where we saw Milwaukee Bucks crumble again, and New Orleans Pelicans beat them by 107 points to 100 points in the early hours of this morning. This is another defeat coming off LA Lakers beating them by 128 to 124 points a couple of days.
Not a good result, of course, for the Milwaukee Bucks. They've not, of course, been up and doing, of recent from what we've seen at this point in time. So sad, and it's been one man, Gianni Antetokounmpo, who has been, of course, the man shouldering the burden of the team. He actually put up a very impressive performance in that game, but his best wasn't good enough. A total of 35 points, from him alone in that game, and still yet, the Milwaukee Bucks, of course, couldn't get past, the Pelicans in that particular one. So for me, I think it's a very, it has been a very sad outing for them in their last, 2-3 games now we've seen at this point in time. But we hope, of course, they'll be able to bounce back strongly and see they can make out and see how they can make the season, better for them.
Atlanta Hawks beat Boston Celtics by a point, just 1 point, 123 to 122 points in the early hours of this morning.
Yes, a very impressive performance, of course, from the Atlanta Hawks guys. Put up, some level of performance, in that particular award. We saw the Dejounte Murray coming up with 44 points, for the Hawks, in that particular encounter. 44 points, for one man. Talking about Dejounte Murray in that particular one, and DeAndre Hunter also with 21 points in that particular game. Bodan also coming up with 24 points. I think the Hawks, of course, were very, very determined, to get that victory ahead of the Celtic in that particular one. For me, was really an impressive victory.
Impressive victory for Hawks, Atlanta Hawks, over Boston Celtic. 1.123 over 122. That was really, really close. But we'll take a break now. When we return from the break, we'll go to the ever-busy world of football. Of course, this weekend is the weekend that will decide a lot, especially on the Premier League table. Arsenal will be going to Etihad to play Manchester City. What chances do they have? Will they cement their position in the Premier League? Back here in Uyo, Nigeria, it will be Rivers United up against defending champions of the CAF Confederations Cup, USM Alger of Algeria. Tough duel, you must say, but how prepared are Rivers United? When we talk for the break, we'll get you on it.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
Telling him not to counterpunch. people into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human
On the point of order.
Honorable
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Welcome back. It's Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network on this Good Friday here in Nigeria and of course the rest of the world. And of course we've told you how Toby Amoso and of course Awachuku have been branded ahead of the Olympic Games, and it looks very cheering for athletes from Nigeria, hopefuls from Nigeria, who have been now launched into 60 markets and amongst 40 disciplines that will be on showcase at the Olympic Games. And beyond that, we've told you how River Supers as well are preparing ahead of the games with one of their opponents suffering loss of a point guard as well. Across internationally in basketball, we told you how Atlanta Hawks have been able to beat Boston Celtics twice in 4 days. Well, now stay away from all of that and talking about the latest now, let's look at tennis. And in tennis, the Miami Open is into the finals for the females, and Elena Rybakina has taken Victoria Azarenka to reach the final. Kingsley, fourth seed Elena Rybakina was not expected to be in the final, especially when you have experienced Victoria Azarenka in the beat.
Yes, of course. You didn't expect Elena Rybakina, of course, to get to the final. Taking a look at the fact that she was facing an experienced player. Talking about Victoria Azarenka at this point in time, it was a very tough game. She was able to get
a tie break.
Yes, it was really good too. Through the first round, that was that she got the first round, but she actually lost woefully in the second round. Lost 6 in the second round, and thank God she was able to bounce back, of course, in the third round to get a 7-6 victory. Very tight one, in that particular encounter, and a good one, of course, for Elena Rybakina. As it stands now, I think she's the favorite, to get this particular one. Looking at the fact that the big names are no longer there. Iga Swiatek has been ousted out. Coco Gauff has been ousted out as well in this particular one. And from what we've seen, it's actually a title, because when you take a look at it, I'm not really seeing, of course.
She wants to do it back to back?
Yes, I'm not really seeing anyone, of course, stopping out this time around. So
there's Alexandra Ekratina.
Yeah, but I don't really see Alexandra, of course, being a very tough opponent for Elena. Elena, she's been there, and she has the experience of this particular tournament, talking about the Miami Open. So for me, I think it's actually a title this year.
Kazakhstan's Elena Rybakina in the Sunshine's double. Let's see whether this will be possible in the next 48 hours when the finals will be decided. And talking about the Miami Open, the male category, German first seed Alexander Zverev have moved into the semifinals with a dominant win over his opponent, Hungary's Morosan. Of course, you want to say it's not been a big name. Fabian Morosan being defeated by 26-year-old Alexander Zverev. 6-3, 7-5. It did end.
A bit of an easy pass down there, for Alexander Zverev, getting an impressive, performance in both sets, of that particular encounter. Good one for Zverev. The big question is, can he be able, of course, to stamp his foot, on this particular one? And from what we've seen as well, tough opponents, on his way. Is either he will be facing Alcaraz or Grigor Dimitrov,
Talking about Alcaraz, Alcaraz has crashed out of the Miami Open, beating by a straight set, 6-2, 6-4, by his opponent in that one. Dimitrov, Grigor taking out there was a defending champion at the Miami Open, Carlos Alcaraz. Everybody believed he was going to be his back-to-back, but now no sunshine double for the Spaniard who is just 21 years of age.
Very disappointing. Very disappointing for Alcaraz. I thought he was going to go all the way. But, you know, Grigor Dimitrov taking him out of the West well is another big question. What is really happening? Alcaraz, you know, it's been difficult for him to maintain the level of consistency we used to see from him, you know, before. I tell you, that was not the kind of performance, you know, we expected. And at this point in time, for what we're seeing, I think the man really had to put back himself and see how he can do with, you know, tennis. Everyone expects him to go all the way to see how he can challenge, of course, with the likes of Djokovic. But we're not seeing that. Rather, we're seeing a certain Yannick Sinner, you know, coming up. And Yannick Sinner as well, a little bit of consistency we're seeing, you know, from him. And that brings us, you know, to the argument, you know, when would these young gents, of course, live up to expectation? We saw the likes of, you know, Novak Djokovic.
They're not consistent,
They're not consistent. They're not consistent at all. And that is actually a very huge worry, you know, for the future of tennis. Because you talk about tennis, you know, back then, you take a look at the likes of Rafa Nadal, Novak Djokovic, and Roger Federer. They were very much consistent. And that was why they were able to win this number of Grand Slams, you know, they so this inconsistency for these young gents, I don't know how the future of tennis, of course, you know, will look like. But good one, of course, for Grigor Dimitrov getting past Alcaraz down there. Can Zverev, of course, yes, can Zverev, of course, you know, stamp his foot by going down the way to take this one. I think we'll just keep our fingers crossed and see how it goes.
So if I pair in looming there between Grigor and, of course, his opponent who seems to have done well in this one, Alexander Zverev, Grigor, in a tough duel in the next 24 hours from now. Meanwhile, Daniil Medvedev has a very tough opponent. Do I say another of the players we expect to be consistent? Talking about Yannick Sinner from Italy, who will be his opponent in just a few hours from now. What do you expect? Daniil Medvedev, very experienced, you know, tennis player, up against an exciting up and coming fast Yannick Sinner from Italy.
It's going to be a very tight one, Mr. Siri, very tight encounter. And from what we've seen so far, sometimes Medvedev, when you expect him, of course, to you know, put up the performance that everyone expects, you see him falling down. And we've seen this Yannick Sinner at some point, you know, challenge the big names, you know, we have so far in tennis. He has actually challenged the likes of Novak Djokovic and got past him. Challenge Alcaraz, you know, talk about the names, you know, we have, the big names we have now. This man has gone past them. And I think for me, that's what I'm saying, it's going to be a very tight one. Looking at the fact that sometimes when you expect Medvedev to live up to expectation, you see him, of course, getting down. And you take a look at the high-flying Yannick Sinner, you know, at this point in time. I saw one of his games, you know, in this Miami Open. His serve was very, very accurate and with power. So it's going to be a very tight one if Medvedev, of course, do not actually calculate himself very well. We might be seeing Yannick Sinner getting past him.
Yannick Sinner with a lot of that's a optimism there. But let's see how far he can go past the very experienced Daniil Medvedev from Russia. Meanwhile, we'll stay away from tennis now. Let's go to football and talk about football. The Federations Cup is entering into a crucial stage for the year 2024. And the Nigeria Premier League side, Sporting Lagos, have been knocked out now. And that is the nature of the FA Cup. Big names being defeated there or eliminated from the competition. And who beat them, Kingsley?
Of course, it was Inter Lagos, one side in the NNL. I tell you, teams in the NNL are always very, very stubborn. When they face all this MPFS side, they don't let you go. Just like what we saw last season for Sporting Lagos when they were coming to the Nigerian Premier Football League. So they were also very stubborn. So when you meet all these teams, you know, from the NLL, you have to be very, very, you know, strong. You have to be on your toes, or else they can take you out of the way. I think for me, it's so sad for Sporting Lagos. Not a very good result, you know, for them. They've been struggling in the league, you know, so far, and now they're also been ousted out, you know, from the Federation Cup. It is not, of course, a very good, you know, outing for them. And one thing, Mr. Cherry, we should actually take a look at, you know, in this Federation Cup is that big names, of course, have been ousted out. I think the other day, Eyimba, of course, you know, were actually being ousted out from the competition.
Remo Stars are out.
Remo Stars are out. Even Heartland of Owerri as well, you know, they're out. The big names, of course, you know, being ousted out. Maybe they're not, you know, finding it very, very important or taking the Federation Cup, you know, very serious at this point in time. So for me, But what we've seen so far, I think for Sporting Lagos, disappointing performance for them. Paul Lafort, the coach of the side, won't be a happy man at this point in time. Looking at how they came to the Premier League, looking like a team that's ready to bulldoze everybody, but all of a sudden they are drowning out this point in time. It's a poor result and a disappointing performance for Sporting Lagos.
Poor result, disappointing performance from Sporting Lagos, beaten by Inter Lagos, a National Division 1 League side. Meanwhile, this weekend, we understand the Nigerian National League has been slightly rearranged for matches coming up this weekend. Kingsley, what could be responsible for this slight rearrangement of matches in the National League?
I think it's just to accommodate the fixtures in the Federation Cup. Some teams are participating in the Federation Cup, and if the league, of course, is not being arranged, it's going to affect their participation in the Federation Cup. I think it's a good one for the management of the league to see how these teams, of course, can. But the deadline for the Federation for the different state to end the Federation Cup is on the 30th.
31st.
31st, and if they don't round up with it, of course the NFF will have to sanction them, and that's why we're seeing this rearrangement so that the teams, of course, can participate in the Federation Cup.
Of course, the Federation Cup finals must be concluded by Sunday, and of course that's why we will have some matches played in the National League. It involves a lot to move around the country. Let's stay away from the local league now and look at the CAF Confederations Cup, which is the second tier league of football here in Africa. Rivers United, the only Nigerian survivors in the CAF Confederations Cup matches, and even the Champions League, right now have arrived Uyo yesterday, and they are trying to get used to the Gospel Aquabio Stadium. This has been their home ground in all of the Confederation fixtures they have played so far, and it's good news that they've arrived. They'll have to settle at least another 72 hours before the fixture comes up on Sunday.
Yes, it's a good one. When you have a fixture like this, USM Orjas, defending champion of the title, you really have to prepare very well. And as it is, from them getting down to the stadium by this time to prepare to get themselves familiarized and adapt to the weather down there, I think is very, very good, of course, for Rivers United. They should be on their A game in this encounter, or else it's going to be a very difficult one for them. Good one they have won, and I think the Gospel Aquabio International Stadium has really favored them when it has to do with them playing continental games, down there. And going there, that place is just like home to them. They're already familiar with that place. So for what I'm expecting from Rivers Supers, in this encounter,
Rivers United,
Rivers United, they should go all the way to get the goals. That's the thing. Get like 3-4 goals. That's team. The man has been very, very active since he was actually given that role as the captain, of course, for the team. The last time they were hosted out at this stage for the competition by the team, I think, from Tanzania. But this time, I think they should be looking forward to get past the quarterfinal stage of the CAF Confederation Cup.
Rivers United in Uyo for their cracker of a fixture in the quarterfinal stage of the CAF Confederations Cup. This promises to be very thrilling, but we heard him say that Stanley Guma, who have been on medical vacation, is back to the squad, and with his word of experience, should be able to navigate the team, as they need at least 3 goals to survive the onslaught in the return leg fixture in Algeria. Talking about the CAF Confederations Cup reminds me that CAF, Confederation of African Football, organizers of football at the Champions League level and CAF Confederation Cup level, have announced new dates for the finals of the Champions League. We understand games will now must be played on a home and away basis in the month of May 2024. The first leg of the CAF Confederation final will be played on the 12th, while the return leg fixture will be in the following weekend, which is the 19th of May 2024. In the CAF Champions League, the first leg of the final is expected to be played on the 18th, while the return leg fixture will be on the 25th. So all of the finals must be concluded in the month of May. Has anything to do with the new calendar of Nations Cup.
Yeah, for me, I don't think it has nothing to do. Though there will be some, Nation Cup, I think, qualifying games. We're expecting Nation Cup in 2025. We hear Morocco, of course, they are the ones that to host that one. But I think it has really nothing, of course, to do with that. I think probably it's just for CAF, to see how they can, put it, right and as well finish up in time.
Well, let's still bring you some football stories, and this time around it has to do with the preparations towards the Olympic Games in the football event for female. The final qualifier is yet to emerge. Will it be the Bayana of South Africa or the Super Falcons of Nigeria? For that to be decided, the two matches will decide it first in Nigeria and return leg in South Africa. Desiree Lee, the coach of the South African side, is not expecting any friendly reception when they do arrive in Nigeria in the next few days for that fixture.
Of course, you shouldn't be expecting any friendly reception because nobody will be happy to even have them down here. Though we have to receive them, but from what we're seeing at this point, it's really going to be a tough game. The Bayana, talking about the Bayana, they've been very fantastic in African football. The last Women African Cup of Nations, they went down to the final, and of course, were able to take that one. And we saw them at the World Cup as well. They also had a very, very good, impressive outing. And now they are looking forward to get forward to the Paris Olympic, which they've not been in the Olympic, for a very long time now. So I think for what we've seen so far, they really want to get this one. But for the Super Falcons, under coach Randy Wardrum, I think they have what it takes. We have very, very impressive players now in the Super Falcons team. The likes of Alozie, we have the likes of Rajid Ajibade, talking about Cecilia Shola as well. Very impressive player, Ashley Pronte. I think the Super Falcons, squad are very much ready, as it stands. Our goalkeeper Chiamaka Nadozie, who had been, who has been titled, as one of the best goalkeepers when it has to do in Africa here, when it has to do with saving penalties. She's also very active, as well. So for me, the Super Falcons are also ready to see how they can battle this one. I think they should just try most can to get a favorable result down here at home, talking about the MCO Abiola Stadium. Then they can go down to South Africa and finish the work. But it's going to be a very tough one. But let's see who gets it at the end of the day.
Talking about tough fixture tonight, it will be tough in the CAF Champions League quarter-final first leg fixture between SC Zimba of Tanzania against one-time champions of the CAF Champions League, Ahali of Egypt. The quarter-final first leg fixture promises to be very tough there. A Tanzanian side up against Egyptian side Ahali of Egypt. Well, let's go over to national football now. Finidi George, over the last few days, has navigated the Super Eagles of Nigeria as head coach in two fixtures. He did beat the Black Stars of Ghana, of course, lost to the Eagles of Mali. A lot of people seem to be wagging on whether this one win and one defeat would be a minus as the race for who replaces Coach Pesero was up here in Nigeria.
Yeah, it's a minus for me for Finidi because the performance, so many Nigerians.
Finidi says he's not under any pressure to
coach the Super Eagles.
So yeah, exactly.
He's not under any pressure. It may be for him, but for what we've seen so far, I think Nigerians are not, impressed. The NFF, I don't know if they're impressed with the performance we saw from him. Though a little bit of change when it has to do with tactics, not the defensive approach we saw from Yese Pesero. A little bit of an attacking-minded side we saw from that Super Eagles side. But the chemistry and the synergy was not good enough. And beaten by Mali by 2-0 is not what Nigerians, of course, expected. Getting past Ghana 2-1, we thought, of course, we would have at least get even a draw against Mali. 2-0 was not a very good one. Though he can actually give some excuses that we didn't have the best of leg. Osimhen was not there. William Chusoka was not in that game. Olalo, I know, was not in that game. But the crop of players we have there, he would have actually tried to see how he can utilize, maybe at least get a draw out of that particular encounter. But that performance, Mr. Sey, was not that impressive. And for me, a huge minus for him. Though he said he's not, under pressure in coaching the Super Eagles of Nigeria, but I don't think the NFF, will want to hand that job, over to him. And looking at the fact that our next encounter is the World Cup qualifiers against South Africa, we need someone that can help us, of course, to grant at a very good result in order for the team to be at the World Cup.
Well, win one, the lost one is not a very bad, do I say, result at the end of the day. But for Finidi George, I'm sure he will still keep pushing for headship of the Super Eagles coaching position, especially now that we have Austin Eguavoen out of the way, haven't gone on the technical course in Germany, so he won't be among those that will be cleared for the assignment of headship of the coaching position of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Let's quickly go to Europe now because we're running out of time, and in Europe the league matches will return this weekend. Maybe when we return on Sports Extraordinary, we'll take our time to bring you most of the fixtures, but we'll bring you some highlights of what's cooking in Europe when it comes to football. Frank Onyeka is in the news, Kingsley.
Frank Onyeka, of course, is in the news. We hear the man is ready now, to face Brentford, to face Manchester United, of course, this weekend. They're talking about his team. Remember, of course, he was out of the Super Eagles friendly due to, of course, the injury we hear he sustained. But the man is back now to face Manchester United this weekend.
Well, talk about this weekend in Europe. The biggest fixture is the one that is coming up on Sunday at the Etihad Stadium. Arsenal traveling to Manchester to take on City. This looks very, it's like a match that will decide the top position in the Premiership in England. Quickly, because we're running out of time.
Yeah. I tell you, Mr. Siri, we'll just look forward to see what Arsenal will be able to do against Manchester City. It's going to be a very tight one because City they don't want to let this title go. Arsenal, of course, it's been a long, I think since 2003-2004 season, they won the title. They've not won it. And it's been how many years now? So Arsenal want to fight. I just hope that Mikel Arteta, of course, will be able to come up with a very good strategy to get the victory this weekend against Manchester City.
A lot to expect on our program Sports Extraordinary this weekend because we will feature the CAF Champions League and the Conference Cup analysis, and of course what the league positions will look like in the top 5 leagues in Europe. Until when we return at 6 p.m. Nigerian time, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, social economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Telling him not to counterpunch.
lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains. Through the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, and discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.